Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and today we are revisiting an old friend of mine. Today we are going to be looking at Libgdx. Now Libgdx is a cross-platform Java game development framework built on top of OpenGL ES with all kinds of targets. It is available for Windows, Linux, macOS, Android, runs in your browser, and can run on iOS. So this is a very battle-tested game framework. This thing has been used in a number of games, as we will see in just a few minutes, and is also individually very important to me because in all honesty, if you like Game From Scratch, the YouTube channel, well, Libgdx has a lot to say for that, because if you go back over to the Libgdx channel, look at all of the videos available, you go to sort by, and you sort by the oldest available, you will notice after a couple of cringe videos, the fourth video that I ever did was actually Libgdx, and then we kind of got into, and a lot of the views for this channel, they came from Libgdx tutorials, and then we got into the Godot game engine after that, but Libgdx really was the start of Game From Scratch on YouTube. So again, this is a framework that has a lot of special place in my heart, I guess we could say. On top of that, I've done a tutorial series dating back to 2013 and then a video series after that. So I've been covering Libgdx for quite a few years. The truth of the matter is, it hasn't really needed a whole lot of coverage lately because like all these frameworks, like Monogame, like SDL, SFML, and so on, well, once you get to a point of being useful, you're useful. It's not like 2D game frameworks become outdated or obsolete. What they can do is become abandoned. And what's interesting here is Libgdx is one of the few examples I can think of where the original creator, in this case Mario Zechner, he moved on to do other things. And it looks like a full-blown community has taken his place, which is good to see. A lot of the times these frameworks don't really survive the benevolent dictator leaving. And it does seem like a good community has rallied around Libgdx. That's what we're going to be looking at today. They have been releasing a status report or roadmaps of what is going on in the world of Libgdx, and they're going to be looking to do more frequent releases starting very, very shortly. So we've got two status reports to look at. Status report 2 was kind of boring, so we're just going to do status report 1 and then the just released status report 3, and we'll go from there. So here you can see, by the way, if you go and look for Libgdx, you're going to find two sets of sites. There's the old Bad Logic Games site, and then the new stuff. The new stuff is available at libgdx.com. So if you're looking for updates, that's where you want to head. So the first real status report was back in August 30th of this year. And you see where they kind of talked about their updated release schedule. They've got a number of new teams. The Libgdx team was expanded in the last couple of days. There's 10 new faces as part of the contributions team. They are looking at doing increased number of releases. What we have coming up here is they've got the Linux ARM builds are in place. So if you want to deploy your games for Raspberry Pi, you can do that now with the latest snapshots of Libgdx. On top of that, there were some Gwt improvements. Gwt is the, I think, Google Web Toolkit. It's the Google backend for porting Java applications to web applications. So we got some improvements there. Web audio being used instead of the Sound Manager 2 library. It's possible to now lazy load assets. Mobile Retina and HDPI screens are coming. Support for gyroscopes or gyroscopes if you say it wrong. And some general quality of life improvements there. They're looking to move towards a Gradle build migration. And it's kind of funny, actually. If you go back to my old tutorials, they're almost all still valid. Like I said, these frameworks are very mature in what they do, but where you're going to find that it broke is the build system. So the build system for Libgdx, I think, has changed 3 times now, and welcome to the wonderful world of Java and Java build systems. So they're moving the whole build process to Gradle. I don't know if that is done yet. They also got rid of the iOS MOE, which was the multi-OS engine. You got to do a bit of a backstory here. There used to be a company called RoboVM, or no, it wasn't RoboVM was the name of the company. Robotality, I think, was the name of the company. RoboVM was the product. RoboVM was a virtual machine that you could run Java on iOS platforms. They ran into some problems. It shut down. So they did the multi-OS, the MOE backend as a way to support iOS. It never really got that great, though. And there was an open source fork of RoboVM called MobiVM, and that's what they ultimately ended up using. And they're also picking up development on the GDX video module. So we're going to now back to status update 3. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot in 2 in the meantime. And here we've got improvements to the controller functionality. So in version 2, which is set to release, it will include, and then I don't know why you're throwing in some kind of, I don't know, pompous Latin in the middle there. But we've got more reliable mappings, hot plugging, vibrations on most platforms, as well as methods to query controller features and an all-new iOS implementation. Desktop implementation is now based on SDL libraries with a Java wrapper named Gamepad. So that's some improvements definitely for the controller. It's available as 2.0.0 snapshot, and there's a migration guide available out there. Packer has a new maintainer. Packer is a way for pushing all your assets into a single file. The jar is available there to be tried. And as we go back to status report 1, GDX video extension is kind of being developed again. There's no ETA on that release as of yet. And then another thing they are looking at right now, and again, this is funny because this is the area of Libgdx that keeps getting changed. The setup tool is looking at potentially, they're doing a prototype to do a new web-based setup tool. It is nice to see, once we get past the animations here, this is the tool for creating a new game or whatever. It does work quite well, and the existing one should still work as per the tutorial instructions I got. I'll link both of my tutorials down below. Like I said, even if they are like 7 or 8 years old, they're still pretty valid. So we got some features improvements planned for the 1.10 release. Again, MOE is set to be removed. Linux ARM builds, as we're talking in the earlier version. A bump update in the Box2D physics libraries to version 2.40. GWT backend improvements. LWJGL3, that is the OpenGL binding layer for Java. Improvements there, including a foreground FPS option and general scene 2D performance improvements and so on. So that is what's there. They said otherwise you'll see status report 4, which will probably be released around the end of October. So if you're interested in the Libgdx project, there are a number of new faces on board. They are doing these frequent monthly updates on what is going on there. They are trying to do more frequent releases with nice, good backwards compatibility in between each release. So if you wanted to check that out. So if you are interested, Libgdx is available over on GitHub. This is an open source project. It is, I believe, the Apache 2 license, unless that changed. Come on. You can do it. Yeah, still the Apache 2 license. Apache 2 license gives you quite a bit of flexibility. It's a lot like MIT in terms of the requirements and so on. As you can see here, there was a commit 38 minutes ago. So again, there is very active development going on with Libgdx, and it's one of those projects, it's nice to see that it survived the retirement of its creator. Again, that doesn't always happen, so that is definitely nice to see. So the details are available here. There is a nice installer that gets you up and running and so on. There's some decent documentation out there, and of course there's a bunch of tutorials, including the ones that I did many years ago. It was also used if you've used the Spine 2D animation system. Spine was actually written on top of Libgdx, and I actually believe the creator of Libgdx at least worked there. I don't know if he still does actually, but if you're interested in terms of games, published games that you've actually heard of that were shipped using Libgdx, there's actually quite a few out there, and this is just a subset of them. But you've probably heard of Slay the Spire, and by the way, it is on Switch, so you can port these things to platforms such as consoles, etc. Unciv, which we'll get back to in a second. Again, Spine was built on top of it. Mindustry, Space Haven, Delver. It's a 3D first-person shooter. Pathway is Halfway, Residual. Mirage Realms, Rain Dancer, Poke MMO, or Pokey MMO. And so on. So a number of games here, but the ones you've probably heard of for sure are at the top. Slay the Spire, and if you really dig into it, going back to the very beginnings of Libgdx, it's actually been used to create quite a few games that are out there. And as you can see, it's also been used to make successful mobile games on various different mobile platforms that are out there. So Libgdx, once again, it's one of those projects that has been near and dear to my heart. If you're interested in kind of checking out a little bit closer, Unciv, one of the projects that was mentioned, is an interesting one to check out. And as you can see, 2 hours ago was the last commit, so definitely still development going on here. It is Civ 5 for Android and desktop. It's a recreation of Civilization 5 using the Libgdx framework. Now, interestingly enough, I don't know how much of this was actually written in Kotlin versus Java, but definitely an interesting project to check out. So if you're looking for a fully complete game, open source project out there to look at or to contribute to or to try and, figure things out. Oh, I know now. it's almost entirely written in Kotlin. That's interesting. I've been looking at learning Kotlin for a very, very long time. So anyways, that is it. That is an update of Libgdx. Again, it's probably something I'm not going to talk about again for another couple of years because these things are pretty stable. It is battle tested and it works. It's made commercial games that have made millions of dollars. And if you are looking to do game development using Java or Kotlin, 2D, and there's some really simple 3D stuff, kind of like basic scene management, model loading, 3D setup, and that's about it. Also included in there. So if you want to check out Libgdx, I highly recommend it. Again, I will link all of the old stuff I did on it down below if you do want to check Libgdx out. So anyways, a bit of an update. It's nice to see them doing these more frequent updates. Now again, when you search for Libgdx on Google, do make sure that you go to libgdx.com. Available, yay, and not Bad Logic Games. That's the old home for it. But it is nice to see a community building around it, and hopefully they continue to, grow and be successful and all of that stuff. All right, that's it. I will talk to you all later.